Hey everybody, how's it going today? Hope you're doing well. I'm going to start off by sharing a small fact about myself that might seem totally random, but actually is very relevant to today's message. That fact is that I love frozen mango. I know I say it like it's a confession, but it is a little bit of a weird thing to share, and we're going to get to that in just a second, but I do. Man, I love frozen mango. It tastes so good. The texture is awesome. It's nice and cold, and especially when it's softened a little bit, it tastes like a little smoothie in your mouth. I just love it. And I know you're thinking, Mike, just make a smoothie. Like, it's not that hard. And I get it. Sometimes I do. But for the most part, it's not the same. There's something about those little pieces of frozen mango that you just bite into, and it's so awesome. One of my favorite snacks ever, one of my favorite desserts ever. And I've got like a 5-pound bag of frozen mango in my freezer right now. And every night, I'll just take it out and try a few pieces and be like, man, this is good. This makes me happy. And my friends know this. The people close to me know this about me, and they think it's a little strange, a little funny, and it's not uncommon for them to see me purchasing a bag of frozen mango, eating from a bag of frozen mango. I took a trip with some friends a while ago, and we got like supplies for food and stuff, and I was like, oh, I got to get frozen mango. They're like, is that really necessary? I'm like, yeah, it's absolutely necessary. Then every single night they see me pull out that bag and eat some. They're just like, this is the weirdest, kind of funniest thing I've ever seen. And so there's a little bit of judgment going on, but I've learned to accept it. That's okay. But I do. It's just such a great snack. And every time I start eating it around people, they question me a little bit. They first start by smirking, and I'm like, what? I don't understand. Like, just let me enjoy the thing that I enjoy in peace. But they start smirking, and I've asked questions like, why? Why is this so funny? Why is this so weird? If you tried this, you would love it like I do, because it seems so natural of a thing to love. It tastes amazing, and it's not even like bad for you. It's just got great texture. It's got all the things you need in a good snack. So what's the judgment? And they're like, well, it's more just funny because we look at you and you're like grinning from ear to ear about this thing that to us is just like, okay, so what? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand what about it is making you so happy, so joyful, just to have this little snack. There's nothing that really does that to me. And so it's a little bit of curiosity mixed with a little bit of just like, Micah's doing a funny thing over there. But when I get these looks and these comments, it's inevitable that I will turn to them and say, you just need to try it. If you were to try it, you would feel the exact same way about it that I do. And I'm like, look, I'll find you a good piece. And, the dark pieces are really the ones you want for a first-time mango eater, because the lighter pieces of mango, just a little mango trivia for you, are the ones that are like closest to the rind. So they're a little bit harder, a little bit closer to the texture of like a frozen pineapple, which, yes, is also great, but it's no frozen mango. And so a first-time person that's going to be eating a frozen mango, they might not like that. Might be a little too hard, might hurt their teeth a little bit with the cold. You want a darker piece that's closer to the heart of the mango, and you want it softened just a little bit, so let it sit for a second. And once they eat this piece, it's pretty typical that they're like, that is actually pretty good, I gotta say. Now, they might not get like why I'm so excited about it, but they like it for their own reasons. They think, yeah, I get it. That's pretty nice. But they'll still laugh at me a little bit. And I was talking to a friend about this the other day, and she was telling me, she's like, Micah, it's just hilarious. You're in your own little world over there, and nothing else matters. And it's infectious because as soon as you look like that, as you're just so excited about this dumb little thing, we all want that feeling. We want to know, what is this all about? What's going on here? And so when you share it, we get a little bit excited. Like, I want to try it. I want to see what all the fuss is about. But we're already prone to liking it because, well, first of all, it's not that bad. It's a fine snack, but also because we want what you have. We look at your response to this outside stimulus and we think, man, I want that feeling. And after she said this, she said something that really struck me in a funny way. And it made me think, and this is the reason for the whole episode today. She said, you're like an evangelist for frozen mango. And, I laughed because I thought that was funny, but also it made me think a little bit because that word, evangelist, is a very religious word. So it kind of put me in mind of religious things or spiritual things. And I thought, is that true? Is that the right term for it? And, the word evangelism is kind of a big word, or maybe even a scary word if you're thinking about applying it to your life. But really, it comes from the Greek evangelion, which just means good news. And so the word that means gospel, essentially in the Greek, became synonymous in the English with one who preaches or shares that gospel. And so really that's all it is, one who shares the gospel, one who shares their faith with somebody else. And so even though I'm only sharing about frozen mango or even sharing the physical frozen mango with a person, I thought, is it true that I'm being an evangelist for frozen mango? Now, in a tongue-in-cheek way, maybe yes. But I thought about this for a minute and I realized that actually there's something I'm doing better with my evangelism of frozen mango than I am for my evangelism of the gospel. And that really was interesting to me because what am I doing wrong in sharing the gospel? When I share frozen mango, I get like a 98% success rate because people are definitely like, yeah, that's pretty good. I might even go buy some myself. I've had my friends say, you'll never guess what I'm eating right now. It's frozen mango because of a time that I introduced them to it. And it might have taken weeks or months for them to get to that point, but they remembered that time. They thought of it fondly. They remembered it was a good snack. I was right about that. And so they're like, yeah, I want that again. So they recalled it to remembrance and they did it for themselves. And I think that's awesome. But my success rate with preaching the gospel is not nearly that high. And I realize the stakes are a little bit different. With one, I'm saying, here's a pleasant snack. And with the other, I'm saying, hey, give your life over to Jesus, who you might not even know if I've not preached him effectively. But what's interesting that I think I'm missing, I'm not saying it answers all the questions or, brings me to 100% success rate with sharing the gospel in exactly the correct way. I don't even think I'm capable of that. But what's interesting is that with the frozen mango, people see that I love it. They see my response to this outside stimulus and they're curious about that response. Before I've said a word, before I have shared a piece with them, before I defend my liking of it, I am making them curious and maybe even laughing a little bit at me. That's fine, but at least curious about what's going on for me to have this response to this outside stimulus. And I don't often do this with my faith. It's not that I don't share it in a way that's excited about this thing that I love, this way of life that I love, this God that I love. It's not that I don't love it. It's just that as a Christian who's grown up this way, even had multiple family and generations before me growing up Christian, I sometimes forget that this is not just my life. This is my life in response to the love of God. The more that I take on Christ, the more that I become like him, which I'm still a long way from, but the more elements of my life that include him in it and that are transformed by him, the easier it is for me to forget that this is a responsive life that I'm living. It's not just my life and that's it. It's my life in response to what Jesus has done, what God has done to show me his love. And so because of that, I can forget to share that I love it. I'm really good at sharing my life with people. I'm really good at sharing the intellectual beliefs and thoughts about the gospel. I'm really good at sharing, in my own estimation at least, I mean, not perfect or anything, but I am, I do have some skill set at like sharing the ins and outs of scripture and theology and apologetics. I love all that stuff and I have a skill set for it. But the thing I'm lacking, I don't have all that information even about frozen mango, and yet the success rate is so high because I'm showing people that I love it by my response to it. And this is something I need to be doing in my faith as well. It's not enough just to share a list of rules or facts or tenets about Christianity. That is all good. I think you do need some of that stuff, but also you need to get people curious about your faith by virtue of how you're living, what your response is like to that gospel. Because if they don't believe that you love it right off the bat, then they will never love it. And this also helps me realize that when I love the gospel more, when I love God more, when I love his word more, I'm going to be not only making people more curious about it, but also realizing what it is I'm trying to share with them. I'm trying not just to share it with them so they understand me, but share it with them so that they have that same response, so that they love it as well. And when I do this, then I realize okay, well, that's going to inform my methodology. Because if I just give them a list of rules, facts, tenets, things to think about, that might be interesting. It might be a pebble in their shoe that they walk on for a while before they take out and realize, I got to deal with this. And that's fine. That's a really good thing. But also, am I getting them to love it by doing that? Or am I leaving that for someone else to do? Tim Keller's actually talks about this when he talks about apologetics in general. And he says, I love apologetics, it's totally fine. But when you're talking to atheists, deal in the what if. not that it's true. You can convince them all day long that it is true, and even then they'd say, but I don't really want it to be true. And so that is the core issue with so many people who don't believe or don't have understanding or have never questioned some of these things. It's that they don't really want it to be true. They don't see the necessity of it. And so when you start there and say, what if it were true? What would that mean? What would that entail? How does that change everything? Then they can start to think of the gravity of the situation, the weight of the situation, how that might affect and change their lives for the better. And you can get them to fall in love with it that way. And so I just wanted to share this because I think so often I make this mistake of, I'll talk about frozen mango all day long. And yeah, I'll share the facts about it. I'll say the texture is amazing, it's sweet and it's good and it's not bad for you. And that's all good. But it's really my facial expressions and my happiness and joy that people are initially curious about and that make them want to try it and that make them question and say, why does he have that response to this thing? And so I need to be not just sharing the tenets of my faith with people, but also sharing the love that I have for it, both in letting people see my response to the love that God has for me, but also sharing it with them in a way that makes them feel like, I want to love that too. I want what you have. I want that reactionary experience to something. Then you can tell them what that something is. If you start from the other way around, there's no real motivation to lean into it. There's no real motivation to fall in love with it the way you have because you've not shown them that you've loved it first.